Hello and welcome. My name's Andy Crook and I'm your host for this training topic on the subject of strategy. You choose what to lose. My mission is to help garage owners become more successful in business. And to do that, I try to go live every week on a topic on one of the 5 pillars of business as I see it. This week, we're in the planning pillar and we're talking about strategy, choosing what to lose. So this training topic aims to tackle something every business owner thinks they're doing enough of, but most simply are not. And that's strategy. Every business operates on 3 levels, and those levels are the strategic level, the operational level, and the tactical level. So right at the top, the strategic level, is where the big decisions are made, such as what kind of garage do you strive to be? Who do you want to serve? And what's your competitive edge? The next level down, the operational level, is where those strategic decisions are translated into systems, processes, and we measure performance. And this is where you're organizing your diary, you're managing your staff, and you're making sure the tools, parts, and the people are in the right place and used for the right things. And finally, there's the tactical level, the day-to-day action, the hand-to-hand combat of running a business, answering the phones, dealing with customers, and actually diagnosing faults and fixing the cars. Most garage owners spend most of their time at the tactical level, and the most common thing they're doing is technically putting out fires. But successful business owners know they must spend a significant amount of time at the strategic and operational levels. The paradox is, however, the less time you have to do that, the more time you need to spend doing it. So let's start with this simple but powerful idea from Alex Hormozi. And Alex stated that strategy is the prioritization of resources when there are unlimited options, which sounds simple, doesn't it? But garages are drowning in options and desperate for focus. This means you must choose what to lose. You must make strategic decisions, the first of which is to spend more time working on your business and less time working in your business. If you're not spending at least 2 days a month on your strategic decisions and at least 4 days a month on your operations, you're not spending enough time working on your business. The first thing you must choose to lose is at least 6 days or 48 hours every month of tactical work. Stop working in your business and start working more on your business. Remember, 6 days, roughly 48 hours every month, is the absolute minimum I'm suggesting. So the first question is, are you doing enough work on your business? As we get into a little bit more about what we need to do, let's think about the unlimited options you have when you're running a garage. Because let's be honest, in an independent garage, you can choose to do just about anything. You could say yes to every job that comes in the door. You could discount to fill the diary. You could decide to start posting on social media, or you choose to do fleet work, or wet belts, aircon, wheeler line, ADAS. You could launch a detailing bay, start offering MOTs, remapping, or even DPF cleaning. You could even open a second site. And that's the problem. You've got unlimited options, but limited resources. And that's where strategy comes in. Strategy is about deciding what not to do so you can double down on what works. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, underpaid, or overbooked, it's probably not a tactical problem. It's definitely a strategic. So don't try to do everything, only try to do what works. So let's say you run a busy garage, you've got 3 techs and a service advisor. You're stacked up with jobs, but you're not making the sort of profit you should be by working this hard. Now, believe it or not, that is a very, very common situation when I speak to garage owners that they find themselves in. A typical sort of independent garage is somewhere around about 3 techs and a service advisor. And what I'm finding more and more when I'm speaking to the business owners is they're busy and they're working really hard. really making as much money as they should. So what could they do? Well, they could do more of what they're currently doing, or they could add more to the list of services they already provide. But all this will do is stretch you even further, and it'll start to feel like progress. You think you're getting somewhere, but it will not increase your margins. You won't make any more money by doing it. It'll leave you with less time and energy for your marketing, training, and your strategy. You're already running at max revs, but you're not accelerating, because that's not a strategy. That's survival mode, and survival mode is exhausting. Now imagine in that business, the garage owner made a strategic decision to only take on work that suits their skills and capabilities, and only take on work from their ideal customers. This change of gear means you're saying no to some or even most jobs, but it's freeing up your best tech to work on those high margin jobs, resulting in fewer headaches. This is where less is more. Now, to begin with, you're not going to say no to everything, but you're going to say no to some. And as you get better at doing those less jobs, you'll make more money. And that's when the idea of strategy starts to make more sense to most business owners who decide to do this. The alternative is to keep doing what you're doing now and hoping you're going to get a different result, which someone once said was the definition of madness. So remember when Alex Hormozi said, prioritize your resources, he means prioritize your time, your team, and your tools. It's a good way to try and remember your resources is time, team, tools. And your time and your team's time is very precious. But also when it comes to your team, their skills, energy, and headspace is also a precious resource. But think about your tools as well. How many ramps you? The diagnostic tool. But beyond tool, well, I'll class them as tools, your part suppliers, software whatever it is you're doing, the stuff that you use to get work done, I'm classing as tools. So what I'm talking about, in other words, is your capability to do the work. And every job you take on takes a little slice of all three, or sometimes a big slice of all three. So before you start taking on any job, ask yourself, is this the best use of our limited resources? Or is this the job that's shouting the loudest? But remember, sometimes the quiet, boring work of building a checklist, fixing your pricing, customer profile is the most strategic thing you can do. And most garage owners are stuck in survival mode. If you want to grow, to earn more, to work less, or maybe even open that second site, then you've got to get ruthless about where you spend your time and who you say yes to. But are you brave enough to turn work away, to prioritize for profit, or are you addicted to the chaos? Because the truth is, you can't scale chaos. You can only scale systems. We're going to spend a little bit of time now thinking about the atomic action from this training topic. And one of the biggest myths about strategy is that you set it and forget it. But running a garage isn't like a game of chess. On some days, it's more like a demolition derby, which means that you need to review and revise your strategy constantly. So I've got a simple 5-step framework that you can use to help you with your strategic thinking within your business. So the problem that we have before we get into the framework is we don't know what to prioritize. And that is a problem because we can't work on everything all the time. So we've got to pick something. So one of the things that I like to get businesses to do is to think about what is their best work? What is the work they enjoy doing most? And that starts as a basis of something where you can apply other frameworks to prioritize what you're going to do. But if you were to take the simple 5-step framework for strategy and how you start thinking more strategically about the work you do, the first step is to consider all the jobs from the previous month. And then look at them and say, and find out which jobs made you the most money and which jobs drained your team the most, but which jobs energized your team. What type of work do you complete ahead of or within the time chart? What jobs took more time than anticipated? Which type of customer is a pleasure to work on? Which types of customer are more difficult? This is quite a lot to think about, and we'll go through it again so we can understand a little bit more of what we're trying to look for. And what we're looking for is patterns in the type of work that you already do. So when we say which jobs made you the most money, so what work do you routinely do in the previous reporting period, normally a month, that make you the most money? What are the most profitable jobs? If you know the most profitable job in your garage, you're in a fairly unique position, because most people I ask this to don't know. They treat all jobs the same, but they're not the same. And they shouldn't be the same when it comes to your strategic thinking. And then think about which jobs drain your team. And by that, I mean, which jobs, do you might be doing them and doing them well. There's a cost, and that cost is borne by the members of your team. And you could be one of those team members. Jobs they don't really enjoy doing. And then the opposite of that, which jobs energize your team, that people get a real sense of satisfaction from doing, and they're pumped up for doing it, the work that they really enjoy doing. Now, it may not be the most profitable work. There could be something in there. Getting work in that everyone enjoys doing is probably better than getting work in that's really profitable and everyone hates doing. And then start to think about what type of work is completed ahead of the time charged. So this is where your efficiency is, or within the time charged, at least. So what work do you do where the hours that you bill are actually at least the hours of the work the time that it took to do the work? Or are there jobs where you can charge more time than it actually took? Can you identify those jobs as opposed to the jobs that are completed well and there's no problem, but you're not charging enough for the time taken? And then think about the customer types. Who do you like working for? What type of customers are your ideal customers? And which types of customers are your worst of customers? Because that is a consideration as well. And think of that not just as individuals, but also if you do trade work or fleet work, what type of customer is easiest to deal with? What ones are a pleasure? Which ones are a chore? So there's a number of things to think about there about a typical reporting period. We're going to say a month. All of the jobs last month. Now, you can't do that while you're doing other work within your business. You have to stop as the garage owner and start working on your business to sift through that piece of data of all the jobs from last week and start classifying the jobs. And then once you've got all of that information, ask yourself, which should we do more of? Which should we do less of? And which jobs should we cut out completely? Just simply say no to them. Now, you've got to be brave to do this, because there's this fear amongst business owners, it's not just garage owners, that there's a scarcity to work, when in reality, there's abundance. There's lots of work out there and there's not enough garages doing it. So what you want to be able to do is get into an abundance mindset and say, right, we're going to do more of the type of work you want to do. And it might be the most profitable and the most enjoyable work. And if you've got the most enjoyable and profitable work and they're the same type of work, fantastic. What should we do less of? Now, this isn't cut out completely, but this maybe not prioritize this work. Let's shift this down. Let's not make time to do this work. Let's do something different as a priority. And this is what we'll use as the filler. And then which jobs should be cut out completely? And then once you know that, set one strategic focus. Prioritize your limited resources on the most profitable, enjoyable, and beneficial work to your business. Choose what to lose, ditch the drainers, drop the disasters, and dump the delays. Once you know that, test it for 30 days. So for the next reporting period, you know now what you're going to try and do more of, what you're going to try and do less of, and what work you're going to cut out completely, and test it for 30 days. And then once you've done it for 30 days, review and repeat. And by review, what you're going to do now is you're going to measure the impact of making this strategic decision. Because what gets measured gets managed, and what gets managed gets mastered. And this continuous improvement loop is vital, because over time, you will start to build a lean, efficient business that runs like clockwork. But only if you keep reviewing and repeating, and you start to look at all the things you should be doing within your business. So focus only on works for you, your team, and your customers. Because remember, if everything's important, nothing is important. Strategy is choosing what to lose. And this is the basis of what I call the Atomic Success MBA. Once you know what to focus on, do more of it, do it better, before you consider doing something additional. So what do I mean by more, better, additional? The idea is once you know what you should be doing, or what you would like to be doing, do more of it. How are you going to do more of that? Well, that might come down to your marketing. So you might need to spend a bit of time doing. Then you might look at your processes around doing that work, which means you do it better. But there's a sort of synergy here. By doing more of something, you naturally get better of it because you start getting your hours in, your repetition, your reps go up, and therefore you get better at it. That's without prioritizing your processes and looking at how to do it better. But you should do that as well until you master that job. And then once you've got to the point where you could not possibly do any more of this really enjoyable, profitable work, should you consider doing something more, something additional? And that's what I mean by MBA. More, better, before additional. Remember, your best yes is probably your bravest no, because success doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing less, better. So thanks for listening. If you found today's episode helpful, do me a favor, share it with another garage owner who's working too hard and earning too little. And remember, if you should, you must. And what's stopping you is probably starting. Thanks for listening. Hope to see you next time.